Stay away from these small towns at all costs.
Stay away, boy.
We've all been to that one rundown town where the vibe just seemed off. The people are strange, and there's this weird feeling in the air. There are a lot of creepy towns in America, especially once you get into the more rural areas. But most don't compare to these. You really should avoid going to any of these places unless you absolutely have to. Some have a dark history and are reportedly haunted by ghosts if you believe in that stuff. And if you don't, well, the paranormal honestly would seem like pleasant company compared to the residents of some of these towns.
He goes, the paranormal is pleasant company compared to the residents. That's disrespectful as hell. So
that's probably how weird the residents are.
You'd rather chill ghosts and be like haunted than be around the people.
Goodness gracious.
Beautiful. That's sold me in.
Yeah.
From abandoned buildings to cults and drugs to gruesome murders, darkness and oddities loom throughout their streets. The following places really should be avoided at all costs, but if you're a crazy adventurer wanting to ignore my warnings, or just interested in seeing how strange America can be, then be sure to listen to my top 10 creepiest towns in the United States. Number 10, Whittier, Alaska. How would you feel if your entire city lived, worked, and spent their free time in the same building? What if they never left? Well, that's life for the 208 residents living in the small port town of Whittier, Alaska. The only way you can escape, or enter, if you dare, is by boat or through a single, highly regulated one-lane tunnel. It closes often and unexpectedly. When it is open, you're only allowed to enter every half hour. Fortunately, you don't need to go through the inconvenience of leaving your building since this single 14-story structure, Begitch Towers, has everything a town could need, from a grocery store to a post office to apartments you can call home.
That is weird. So the fact that your post office and your grocery store is in the same block that you live in as one of the flats, basically, I think that's so odd.
Is it because the town is very small?
208 residents, that's tiny.
Yeah, that's nothing.
That's literally like
that's
a
why
block.
they put everything in one building. They're like, they don't need all this land.
It's weird.
Just give them this tiny little building.
That is pretty creepy so far.
It's weird.
In my opinion.
Yeah, it's weird.
Same building. You really do never need to leave. And most people don't during the winter. Just imagine the isolation. What's even more unsettling is that although the people have lived this way for generations, this is actually a new building. But the old building they all used to live in is still there too. On a hill, dilapidated, crumbling, and fenced off. Never to be entered. Outside of Begitch Towers, the town just seems barren, abandoned, and creepy. While cruise ships do come through here in the summer, very few visitors make the trek during the winter, when the town stays dark for over 18 hours a day, making Whittier feel incredibly lonely and isolated.
18 hours of darkness. Now, why did they not just knock the building down? Maybe they just want to save funds and said it's not worth us. Like,
I think because there's not a lot of residents in that
not bothered.
place. Yeah, so they're not putting money into it. That's the only explanation. 18 hours a day.
Imagine how haunted the old
No
building
wonder they're
is.
just leaving it and not knocking down the
Yeah,
building.
they said, fuck that. It's dark 24, like practically most of the day. So what's the point?
Oh my gosh.
Number 9. Point Pleasant, West Virginia. Upon arrival, it isn't hard to see why the town's most infamous citizen, the creepy humanoid moth-like figure known as Mothman, called Point Pleasant home. No one knows who or what he was, but his supposed flights over the streets during the 1960s are only a recent occurrence in a town deeply rooted in darkness. It all began on the 10th of October, 1774. The Shawnee tribe bravely fought the new American settlers for the land that they both called home. The Americans barely managed to overcome the tactics of the Shawnee chief Cornstalk. Eventually, Cornstalk, his son, and close friends came to negotiate with the Americans in an effort to avoid future battles. But the Americans captured and executed them all. Just before he died, Cornstalk called upon the Great Spirit to curse the land for 200 years as vengeance for the injustice done to him and his people. Whether you believe in curses or not, 2 devastating floods ruined the town, followed by a destructive fire. Later, an airplane carrying the Marshall University football team and their coach tragically crashed here as killing all 75 people on board. In 1967, the Silver Bridge, which connected the town to Ohio, collapsed, killing 46. Then,
I'm not gonna lie, I don't know what I think about curses, but hearing this shit makes me believe that curse was legit.
It's like black magic.
Yeah, it's basically black magic. And them red Indians back then, they don't fuck around with
They
that
don't mess
shit.
around, no.
You know, like the olden day people, but like
Yeah.
tribes and that, mate, they're the ones that you need to be worried about when it comes
Oh
to
my
that
gosh, that's so sad.
shit. That's crazy.
In 1978, a freight train derailed and spilled toxic chemicals into the city's water supply. Not
What's
to
the odds
mention
of
the
that?
apparent men in black and UFO activity in the area. The town is even cursed by a name it could never live up to. If you visit Point Pleasant today, you'll definitely feel something strange in the air. And it's not just Mothman. The real mystery is, why do people keep living here? Number
That is
8,
creepy.
Villisca, Iowa. On the surface, Villisca looks like your normal, quiet, small Midwest town. But that only makes everything that I'm about to tell you even creepier. Over 100 years ago, the Villisca Axe murders of 1912 traumatized the town, which hasn't recovered since. The murders took place between the evening of June 10th and early morning June 11th, 1912, when 8 people were discovered dead at Josiah and Sarah Moore's house. The 6 members of the Moore family and their 2 house guests were found bludgeoned. Even the 4 children had severe head wounds from an axe. Although a lengthy investigation yielded several suspects, one of whom was tried twice, the crime remains unsolved. An air of uneasiness envelops the town today, perhaps because its residents never quite felt safe, knowing a ruthless murderer freely roamed their streets. Today, the town is run down, and although tourists can spend the night in the Moore house, I don't know why anyone would want to. One traveler who passed through here recounts, "It did feel eerie and I felt unwelcome. Even the flies were more annoying there." Perhaps that's why no civilization settled nearby. Even though there are 1,200 people currently living in the town, the nearest restaurant or grocery store other than their gas station is 15 miles away.
Oh my god. I'm not gonna lie, all these like horror movies we watch that like have like these crazy murder stories.
Do you think they're filmed here?
It's always in a small, weird, creepy, quiet town.
Like
it's,
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
It's never in a busy city.
It's
Like it's
true.
rare. It's always in like these
Jeepers
abandoned...
Creepers.
Yeah, it's like these little villages
Yeah.
and towns. It doesn't happen otherwise. Like,
Freddy
it's rare.
versus Jason.
All of them. Literally every one. Texas, like you said, Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Number 7, Centralia, Pennsylvania. Centralia has been on fire for decades. Yes, you heard me right. On fire. The blaze
The
began
hell?
in 1962 with a trash fire in a strip mine beneath the town. That unassuming little flame ignited an eternal hellish blaze that burns underground to this day, and each year it grows by 75 feet in every direction. The town has been barricaded from the outside to prevent people from driving onto the collapsing roads, which are a danger even on foot. Sinkholes constantly and randomly
My
appear,
God.
eager to swallow unsuspecting victims. And where there aren't sinkholes, there are random spurts of smoke that can kill you upon inhaling the fumes. This one might sound like something out of a video game or horror movie, and well, that's because it is. The Silent Hill franchise is based on this town, and it's a tragic story.
So
3,000
Silent Hill franchise is based on this. Silent Hill's like, you know, Resident Evil?
Yeah.
Silent Hill is like more raw. It's a creepier version. And they, from when they're basing their game on this town, that's quite mad, you know. Imagine that's like Resident Evil basing their whole game off one town. Like,
But how can you allow people to live in this state of environment?
when there's fire.
Yeah.
underground. Yeah. I don't know how they've not put
How
the
does the
fire out.
government allow it?
How's the fire not put out? I
They've
guess it's
just left
underground.
it.
It'll be difficult, but come on, it's 2024. Surely we've got the
Yeah,
technology.
you've got technology to fly people to the moon and
You
Mars.
can take out a little.
I'm sure you can take
underground.
out fire.
Yeah, come on.
residents has now decreased to just 10 according to the last
10
US
residents
census.
now.
But nobody knows if those 10 people still live in the death trap today.
Probably
of the
not.
400 to 500 buildings that once stood in this flourishing town, only 5 remain. And I honestly don't know why anyone would want to still live here. I mean, just look at the place. Number 6, Broadhead, Wisconsin. Broadhead is a town haunted by many dark and twisted tales. The first known haunting began after 2 men brutally murdered a helpless woman whose ghost supposedly now roams the bridge that she died on. And that isn't the only tragedy that darkens the city. A fire claimed the life of a little girl who apparently now haunts the building she burned to death in. As if that isn't bad enough, Broadhead residents have recounted numerous haunting encounters with various ghosts all over the town. Perhaps because of another tragedy that happened at what is now called Hell's Playground, where children were murdered by a mentally ill man. Many reports of eeriness and even the faint sound of children chanting have been made. And even if you don't believe in ghosts, the town here still feels creepy, perhaps in part due to the old decaying architecture mixed with extremely religious people and lots of meth addiction. Broadhead just isn't a pleasant place to go through.
I do believe, like, when people are like brutally murdered or a life has been taken to in that kind of level, their spirit still floats within that area. So I do believe like that bridge and the house and the playground, those stories are probably true to me.
I believe that, there are spirits among us as well. I don't believe, me and you are just
in the air, just us. The only existence.
Yeah.
There's more that we can't see.
Yeah.
Number 5, Cairo, Illinois. This once booming metropolis sits conveniently at the confluence of the Mississippi and Ohio rivers. The amazing location brought it great economic success in the early 20th century, but eventually also became its demise. The Great Mississippi Flood of 1927 amassed tragedy here, and soon thereafter, many who once called it home eagerly left once rivers were no longer necessary for trade. It quickly became a ghost town. The population has been reduced to a mere 3,000 residents. Those who remain live amongst the corroding ruins of what was once a great city, now overgrown with weeds. What's even worse is that it's a town ruined by its own hate and spite. Many white-owned businesses chose to go out of business instead of integrating during the civil rights movement. And even as recently as 1967, lynchings were held here. It's no wonder so many were quick to abandon the town. Crime runs rampant here, and just walking through the streets honestly feels like something out of The Walking Dead. Number 4. Antelope, Oregon. Oregon. Drive about 20 minutes outside of any city and you're guaranteed to find some total weirdness. I mean, this thing, the Temple of Oculus Anubis, is just outside of Portland. But out of all Oregon's cultish, creepy, and strange towns, Antelope is by far the creepiest. I mean, the people here live with actual deer on their porches.
That's it.
That's a major weird red flag. But maybe they just didn't get the memo since they don't have any modern technology or much communication with the outside world at all. Now, you're probably wondering the same thing I was. Why do these people live with deer? Well, in 1981, a mystic guru guy from India known as Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh bought 65,000 acres of land just 18 miles outside Antelope. And let me tell you, Oregon had no idea what was coming. It wasn't long before thousands of his followers had infiltrated the town of Antelope with their cultish ideals and eventually even voted to rename the town after Rajneesh. But taking over Antelope wasn't enough. Members of the cult began poisoning everything from restaurant salad bars to water supplies of nearby towns and even Portland and Salem. They also tried to murder several public officials. A global manhunt eventually collapsed the cultic commune, but needless to say, the town of Antelope never quite recovered. It's a ghost town, full of decaying, empty storefronts. Only 49 people remain here as of the last US Census, many resiliently still following their cultic ways, living with their deer.
That group of people that moved nearby, they tried to take over that town. They said, we're going to push these lot out. They want to do like a genocide from the looks of it and take over the town. That's fucked.
Like a Fallout flex.
Yeah, it could turn into Fallout.
Yeah.
Number 3. Colorado City, Arizona. The misleading name isn't half as misleading as the beliefs of the fundamentalist Mormon cult gone rogue that lives here. It all started when Warren Jeffs, a leader of the church, convinced followers in this desert town that technology was satanic and everyone outside of their cult was possessed by Satan. So members of this cult needed to keep their bloodlines pure and only marry within the commune. Eventually, Jeffs was arrested for child molestation, but his ideals remain in the town. Though the rest of the world has moved on, Colorado City is stuck in the 1800s. From their traditional clothing to lack of technology and extreme hostility toward visitors and the entire outside world. Although the town is full of houses, they're mostly abandoned by the members of the cult who instead opt to live secretly in large compounds. The only obvious thing about their way of life is that young girls are forced into polyamorous relationships with much older men. But any other practices remain a mystery, and members of the cult make every effort to keep it that way.
I'm very surprised about these towns that lack technology. I get they might not have like the funding and stuff for like top stuff, but they're so outdated to the point where it's like, how can this even be a thing? How is this possible to be this outdated in 2024?
I think, for example, this was a great example. It's due down to who is leading them. Like this leader, he was clearly trying to run a cult and was against technology. He said technology was satanic.
Because he got something to hide.
Yeah.
He's trying to do a, what's that? Is it Korea where they banned Facebook and they got all these...
He got done for abusing children.
He was trying to madness.
Yeah. So he probably done that because he wanted to get away with what he was doing and no one can...
Record it. There's no tech to kind of...
Or tell anyone about it. They don't have access to the outside world.
Which is what that Kim Jong guy done in his dictatorship in... is it South or North Korea? I think it's South. One of them. You guys know what I'm talking about.
Number 2, Auburn, West Virginia. This is your typical spooky Appalachian small town, of which there are a lot, but Auburn, West Virginia just might be the creepiest. Located right off of State Route 74, the town of 90 residents consists of a single street lined with shack-like houses, and the road comes to an abrupt end once it reaches the woods. There's only one way in or out of the town. Why or how it got there is a mystery, and the people that live here are even more mysterious. A man on a motorcycle trip through Appalachia accounts how he stumbled across the town, which was completely silent and seemingly empty. Not a soul in sight. After coming to the dead end at the edge of town, he was forced to turn around, and as he drove back through the town, dozens of people had suddenly materialized on the porches of their shack-like houses. They stood motionless, silently watching him.
Like zombies.
He got out of there fast. Number 1. Skidmore, Missouri. At first glance, you may see Skidmore as just another decaying small town that more and more people are leaving every year. But this town is a lot more depressing than that, especially when you know where it all started. Over 50 years ago, the notorious bully Ken McElroy blackmailed his way into a reign of terror over the town. He literally raped and pillaged the people there, forcing women as young as 12 into polygamous marriage. No one knew how to stand up to him. Not even the police. Until one day, someone just shot him in front of the entire town. There was an intense legal investigation, but no one in the town would say a word. The authorities eventually gave up. Skidmore was finally peaceful. For a while, but in the year 2000, Wendy Gildenwater was stomped to death by her boyfriend. Some even say she was dragged on the streets hanging from the side of his car until she died. But that wasn't the last of the town's nightmarish troubles. On December 16th, 2004, a pregnant 23-year-old, Bobby Jo Stinnett, was discovered by her mother, who told 911 operators that she looked like her stomach exploded. Upon autopsy, they found that the infant was cut out of her womb by another lady who decided she wanted a baby. For a town of just 250 residents, there have been an abnormally large amount of gruesome murders and disappearances. That's why Skidmore truly is the creepiest town in America.
Skidmore is defo the creepiest town in America. From when you're cutting a baby out of another woman because you can't have a baby, that's fucked. That's like top. That's like horror movie shit.
Do you think people have these crazy lashes? It's not normal.
It's not normal.
Why would it come into your mind, oh, let me cut a baby out of a woman's belly?
Because I really want a baby.
Because I want a baby, rather than adopting a child or having a baby of your own. I mean, not everyone can have a baby. That's why they're up for adopting
maybe
or
maybe
going
it's
through
just a
another
sickness.
procedure.
Maybe they're just mentally not there, you know, not everyone
Do you think
is.
it's because these cities are just deprived in terms of, you know, activities, life, things happening?
I think there's just no life, there's no movement, it's just boredom.
Boredom, your brain, you know, boredom can do so much to your brain.
I what's the word when you like buy things just like without thinking about it, you just go and buy, like, there's a word for it.
Compulsive?
Yeah, I'm a compulsive buyer when I'm bored.
Yeah, he is.
When I'm bored, I'll go spend
when he's on annual leave from work.
2-3 grand's getting spent quickly.
Yeah.
On like car parts or like something.
Or Pokemon cards.
Just something. So like when I'm bored on annual leave, I'm buying something. I bought a car once. I've spent 25k on a car because I was bored and I was like, oh shit, this is sick. Like it's not great. It's a bad habit. And I think, imagine living in a town like that where nothing's happening 24/7. You're not working as well. You might not have a job. It's a lot. And America is so big, that I feel like there'll be loads of towns like this because it's so massive. They can't look after everything. It's too big.
But they should, because we saw some towns where there was fire underneath the ground.
Yeah, that's
and
madness.
It's just disperses.
That one's madness. That one
That's
I don't
not
get.
normal
They
way
need
of
to.
living.
I'm surprised that state hasn't been like.
Yeah,
all right,
they need to sort that out because it's not fair on the residents that are living
Yeah,
there.
that's madness. But yeah, guys, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Keep sending your videos in the description, in the comment section below. We are reacting to those videos. Any last words?
Have a lovely evening.
Peace out.
Bye.